What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 6 of Skins in the Game, where John and Tim are going to talk about what's going on in the sports world. And it was a rough week in sports because there was one headline that pretty much took over for 5-6 days straight. So that's something that we're gonna have to talk about, and that is Drew Brees stepping in it. And with everything going on, we got still protests going on till today. I think it's been 2 weeks going on.
Yeah,
almost
like
a full 2 weeks of protests going on all across the country, all across the world. It's never ending. But what's relevant in the sports term is everyone knows about kneeling for the national anthem. And Drew Brees says, when asked about Colin Kaepernick, because it's now come back up, he says, "I will never agree with anyone disrespecting the flag or our country." That started an uproar. And the big reason it started an uproar is blacks don't feel like they were disrespecting the flag. And they even make the argument that Kaepernick was kneeling out of respect because a veteran told him to kneel instead of sit. Because if you remember, the first game, he actually sat for the national anthem. He did not kneel or stand. He sat. So, what do you think?
What do I think? Well, there's a lot to cover here. I just find it interesting that with Colin Kaepernick, that when he was a starter and he was at the top of his game and loving life in San Francisco, that none of this came up. And it came up once, basically he was benched, then
for Blaine
he decided
Gabbert.
to use...
Yep.
Yeah, so he decided to use, suddenly now he was a spokesperson for all the injustices, and I'm not arguing those. That's not the subject of this, is how valid those arguments are. But all the injustices is now he was a figure for the black community and their oppression. And like I said, if he'd have done something like this when he was at the top of his game, then it might have meant more, but it seemed to me that it actually came across as him trying to stay relevant or trying to stay in the headlines because, I don't think it's that much different than RG3, that he started out, I know he was a little more successful than him, don't get me wrong, but I think that...
Went all the way to the Super Bowl. Yeah, he had a great playoff run, yeah.
Right, so he started out like gangbusters, and then whatever came back down to earth, or defenses figured him out, or whatever happened to the point where he went from playing in a Super Bowl to not being able to start a game. And it seems to me, like I said, that the interest in making these other statements came to the forefront when he was no longer in the spotlight as a starting quarterback. So that's one thing I want to say. And I would also just add that this whole issue, and I know we've talked about this offline, but this whole issue, I believe the NFL messed up or fumbled the ball, to use a football pun, in the fact that they didn't step on this as a workplace issue and not a civil rights or any other issue. That the stadium is the property and the venue of the NFL, and when you are on that stadium field, you are representing the NFL. And any business in this country has the right to say that when you are representing us, you will do or you will not do X, Y, Z. And the NFL messed up by not simply saying, look, when you're in your NFL uniform, this is what you're going to do. This is what we expect from you, and we won't accept anything else. It happens all across the country in all forms of businesses, and they didn't make that statement, and they let this get way out of control. And that's why I think that we're to this point now where now if Drew Brees gives his opinion, he's a bad guy. So why can't he have the opinion of, I don't think anybody should kneel for the flag? And just like the other guy is going to disagree with him, it's fine that he has his opinion, but that's what makes the world go round, is you're allowed to have your opinion, I'm allowed to have mine. But anyway, maybe I've gone on too long about it, but I
No,
think
you're fine.
the NFL, yeah.
Yeah,
that the NFL could have stopped this early.
my thoughts on it were the flag was a way that we all united around our country. And when you knelt for the flag, you changed the game and saying that like basically now kneeling for the flag is how you respect the country and say that we need to fix things. So now we are divided on should we stand for the flag or should we kneel for the flag? Now that was not Colin Kaepernick's goal. I don't believe that was his goal was to split us on the flag. He had a legitimate goal of bringing up injustices that he believes in. That's fine. But what sucks is like I don't know of anything else now that like we were 99% of us were on that boat. Like basically saying that we stand for the flag, we respect the flag to remember anybody that's lost their life for the flag, and also just what the flag stands for with freedom, justice for all, liberty, all this stuff. Like, and basically kneeling, saying, and then you hear a lot of people saying, well, the flag doesn't represent us, or it has never represented us. It's only represented white people, or only represented the higher class, or anything like that, where saying this at the time that there was a black president of the United States, but saying that when black people have grown so much over the years, we were not perfect going over. There's a big thing that the founding fathers missed with saying that in the Bill of Rights there should have been a clause that you do not judge people based on their skin color or their gender. Like there should have been a clause in that. Now, of course,
doesn't all men are created equal?
Well, at the time, they did not view black people and women as men. Like they literally meant men in that time. Yes, now we view that as a more broad statement as a mankind, a humankind, but at the time that black people were not considered human. That's why you were able to own them. You were able to keep them as slaves. Keeping somebody as a slave does not give you life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I mean, that's clearly somebody that we're not talking about in that case. So that needed to be stated, and we did change that with an amendment that basically you cannot treat people differently based on the color of their skin and their gender. So those were all good changes, and we've made a lot of changes. But the founding father, in your sentiment, did lay the groundwork to get to that point with that statement, right? All men are created equal.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good groundwork. Thomas Jefferson he owned slaves, but he had a lot of good beliefs to one day lead us to this point. And then obviously Abraham Lincoln and everything, there's a lot more that's come after him, but they laid a foundation in the founding documents that got us to this point. And I think America is a fantastic country, a fantastic place, and I thought that was one thing that no matter what our differences was, no matter what injustices we face, no matter what is going on in the world, that as an American, you could stand for the flag, and this is representing unity. Tomorrow we can argue about whatever in a figure of speech, but right now this is representing all of us. And now that is a split. There's like you have Shannon Sharp talking about how the American flag hasn't represented us on his Undisputed show. Like it's so there is some deal of the flag involved in this. Like it does not everybody's like, oh, we're not disrespecting the flag, it's not about the flag, it's about everything else. But there is a part of it in there that they do not respect the country, they do not respect the flag because they believe that it's a fringe minority. I don't want to say all black people believe this by any means, but it's a fringe minority that says that this flag and this country does not represent us even to this day, even though it's one of the best countries in the world to ever exist. So,
well, again, but what you're saying, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but ultimately, you made the statement earlier that, whether or not you stand for the flag or whether or not you kneel for the flag, the fact of the matter is when an NFL player or the team stands for the flag, there is no attention brought to any of them. That what Colin Kaepernick did was kneel, which made him different from every other person on that field, which brought the camera to him and brought attention to him, and then it gave him a pedestal to give his opinions on the state of affairs in the United States. I'm saying that is not his pedestal or whatever you want to call it. That is not his to grab. That is the NFL's. He is getting paid by the NFL. He should work. He is working for the NFL, and he is governed by the rules of the NFL. As long as they're applying them equally across the board, and as long as they're not anything that's criminal or going to affect somebody's health, a business has the right to say that when you are representing me, you will represent it this way. And if you don't like it, the answer is fine. I won't work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is when you're making millions of dollars and people suddenly say, "Oh, what's he supposed to walk away from $1 million?" No, he's supposed to follow what the NFL says and make his millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You can't do both. You can't say, "Well, I'm going to take your millions of dollars, but I'm going to ignore your direction as my boss. And if you try to boss me around, then I'm going to tell you you're doing that for reasons other than the fact that you're trying to run an NFL team." But the fact of the matter, if Colin Kaepernick had continued to stand, there wasn't going to be any fans, in my estimation. I'm sure you can't say zero, but there would have been very few fans out there that would have looked at the athlete, whether black or white, and saying, "How dare they stand for the flag?" And I'm going to stop watching the NFL because those people dare to stand for the flag and the flag doesn't represent me. What it did was when Colin Kaepernick knelt, he then brought in the attention of, or negative attention, to say that now fans were starting to say, "Hey, he's just trying to stand up for the African American community." But again, he chose to single himself out and suddenly become a spokesperson for a subject. Again, I'm not arguing the merits of it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying anything that what he's saying that he's standing for doesn't have merit. What I'm saying is that it's not his arena to stand in, and the NFL could have stopped that early on and said no. Just like my company I work for, your company, when you're representing this team, you will act this way. Mm-hmm. If you have a problem with that, you will not work for us. And that should be a legitimate position, and the NFL didn't take it. And
no, they definitely did not take it. Yeah, they decided to go behind the scenes and basically create a blacklist where apparently nobody was allowed to talk to him and nobody allowed to hire him, and like all the owners agreed they would not bring him onto the team. So they kind of did it as like a backroom.
That's what's assumed, but nobody has come out and said that.
Yeah.
But I will say, I believe it was Jerry Jones that said, if you don't stand for the flag, you're not playing in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So hate the Cowboys all you want, but Jerry Jones made a stand that said, when you're in a Cowboys uniform on the side of the field, you will stand or you will not play. Mm-hmm. And I believe Pittsburgh, Rooney, the owner of Pittsburgh, said that if you're not going to stand for the flag, do not be out on the field when the national anthem is discussed or sung. Mm-hmm. And they had people that stood in the tunnel out of view, and he's like, fine, if that's what you want to do, but he was another one that said you will not kneel on the field.
Mm-hmm. And
it's a business that has the right to say that, and it's not a civil rights violation, it's not a free speech violation. It is a team going, you will not adversely affect my product by using my product as a place for you to make your statement. You can do that Monday through Thursday, or when you're away from the football team, say and do whatever you want. But when you have the NFL logo on there or the Washington Redskins logo on there, you're representing us, and you will perform or act according to our guidelines, or else don't use the uniform.
Yep. But I'll say on this, but I disagree with anybody that wants to quit watching the NFL over this. I hate this. I saw so many Redskins fans posting videos, burning their jerseys and burning their memorabilia because somebody knelt as a Redskin on the field. I'm like, no. Send that stuff to me. Give me that. Give me your old 1980s memorabilia. Like, don't burn it. Like,
I'll resell it on Amazon, man. Give it to me.
Yeah, if the Redskins went and hired Colin Kaepernick today, I'm no less of a Redskins fan than I was yesterday. Like, I'm a Redskins fan through and through. I don't care about the politics of the players. I could agree with them. I could disagree with them. They're going to be my team because I love the Redskins, and it sucks because we have one of the worst owners in the world in Dan Snyder. And
that's a different subject, but
I'm just saying. Right, but I don't care who the owner is. We're Redskins fans, and I don't care what is going on. So I wouldn't care if they hired Kaepernick tomorrow. And I don't think anybody should care if you hired Kaepernick tomorrow. He protested. It's up to him. That's fine. Still watch the NFL. It was not the NFL's position. It was a single guy's. So why judge the entire NFL for this? It made no sense to me. But
well, and I'm curious to see. I mean, people could have done that show of burning stuff. That's fine. But I'd be really curious to know how many of those people actually stopped watching the NFL forevermore.
I know. I work in construction. I meet a lot of different people throughout the week and stuff like that. I talk to a lot of different people, and I have had a lot of people talk about I don't watch the NFL anymore because of what happened. And I just look at it. I'm like, well, why ruin your entire experience with the NFL because of this nonsense? Like, that's not worth the. Like, that's ridiculous. We love the NFL. We should continue to watch the NFL, and one player's action should not destroy that. All right.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Yeah. But, okay. We got that out of the way. That was not fun. I did not like that.
What? You think we beat that dead horse long enough?
Yeah. But we will move on to another one. And the next topic is the NBA is returning. Yay. July 31st, they have agreed to return with the 22 teams we talked about. All the teams were the same that was discussed before. They are all coming back. And how they are deciding to do it is there's 8 seeding games, and they will decide those games from the remaining schedule. So they did not specifically say, though, was it the next 8 games or was it literally just people on the schedule? So I did list out the Wizards. They would, if they play the next games listed, they would play Boston, Oklahoma City, Philly, Nets, Bucks, Boston again, Suns, and Bucks again. So, but that does not look like necessarily they are doing that. It might be shuffled around. They have not made that set yet. Now, how the playoffs will work is after the 8 seeding games, they will then, of course, have an accumulative record. May have said that wrong. But they would have a record, and the top 7 will automatically make the playoffs. Then the 8th seed needs to have more than 4 wins to automatically make the playoffs. If the 9th seed is 4 games or fewer within the 8th seed, there will be a play-in tournament thing, a play-in game, however they want to say it. But basically, the 9th seed has to beat the 8th seed twice in a row to take the 8th seed away from them. So if the 8th seed wins one of those 2 games, they're automatically in, but the 9th seed will have to win 2 games.
Well, this sounds similar to what I was thinking about, making the 8th spot the one up for grabs.
Mm-hmm.
But let me make sure I understand this. You're saying that the season, as it were is going to be all the teams outside of the top 7 are going to play 8 games.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to win at least, or you have to be 4 games ahead of the 9th place team for them not to have a chance to knock you off.
Well, it's the 8 games plus whatever your regular season games were on top of that. So if you were 25-30 and you go 6-2, now you're 31-33.
Right. Yeah, I get that. But
Okay.
it's like, so they have to be, basically they're going to play these 8 games, and they have to be more than 4 games ahead of the 9th place team, or else they're not safe.
Yeah, well, the top 7 are automatically in.
Yeah,
So
I know
so
that.
if
I know
the 7th and 9th
right.
are within 3 games, that doesn't matter. It's only the 8th and 9th seeds that matter to get in. So they brought teams back that were within 6 games of the 8th seed. So those teams have 8 games to try to get back within 4 of the 8th seed to then have a chance for a play-in.
So it'll be interesting to see how these 8 games are scheduled between the East and the West, because I know there's 6 more. Is it 6 more teams in the West than there are in the East? I think there's only the Wizards were the only ones who qualified outside of the top
4
8.
more teams in the West, because they brought 5 teams from the West and 1 team from the East that were outside
Okay, I
the
thought it
playoffs.
was right. Okay, so
Yeah.
they're going to be scheduling these 8 games. I assume there's going to be interleague play.
Hmm.
So you're going to have Washington and who is the number 7th one? I'm sorry, I don't. Or the
Uh,
number 8th one. I'm
I
sorry,
believe it's Orlando.
Orlando. So you're going to have only Orlando and Washington on the east side, and you're going to have so unless I'm mistaken, Orlando or Washington are going to make the playoffs.
Correct.
So the 6 teams over on the west, or excuse me, the 5 teams over on the, well, I guess it's 6 with the 8th place team
Hmm.
too. That you're gonna, so you have 8 teams playing in this, but only 2 of them for the East. So obviously the 2 teams in the East have a lot better odds than the 6 teams in the West of making the playoffs.
Basically, yeah. Orlando has the best chance of all 8 of those teams that you talked about because they're already
Right.
6 games ahead of the Wizards.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I get that.
yeah. And now, I guess you would then probably say that the Wizards then have the next best chance, which, if you actually look at it in the regular season, that's true too. Like, if you just took the normal regular season, they would have the better chance out of those 6 other teams because they're fighting for one spot with another team rather than all these 5 or 6 teams that are right near each other in record fighting for that spot. So it didn't change anything that the regular season already was saying, other than you're you're taking away anybody underneath Washington can not come back now because you've
Right.
eliminated them, so they don't have that to worry about. But that wasn't a big worry anyway, because I think the next team was like 2 or 3 games behind them, so they had like almost zero chance of making the playoffs anyway.
Yeah, well, what I was getting at in a roundabout way, admittedly, is that the next thing that's going to be complained about is the West team that doesn't make it into the playoffs is they're going to complain about the fact that they had to play in their 8 games. They had to play the better teams, and the other teams in the West got to play the lowly Wizards. And so we're going to hear about the mixture of games that they have to play. That, like I said, that'll be the next complaint we hear.
Well,
Of
it's not really a valid complaint though, because that was going to happen anyway. Like, you had a different schedule anyway. Some people had
yeah,
an
but
easier
Tim,
set schedule than not anyway.
when does it? Your statement of it's not a valid argument. When does that ever stop the argument?
Well, I mean, that's true, but it's just, I mean, you could, in my opinion, as the NBA, you could easily dismiss those arguments as, I mean, we've changed nothing in that sense. The West has been better than the East for years. Towards the bottom of towards the bottom, it's always been more competitive for the West. It seems like for the last 15 years than it was ever for the East. Like, almost always you have a team in the East that's under 500 making the playoffs, when that's extremely rare on the Western Conference side.
Right. Just a question, and I don't know this offhand. I haven't looked at it in a while, but what is the closest team to the 8th spot in the West? How many games? Do you know
Uh,
that offhand?
2,
Okay, so you got these. So the worst
I
of
believe.
the 5 teams, the 5 play-in teams or whatever is 6. So you're talking about 5 teams or
Within
4
6
other
games.
teams less than 6. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're basically telling the 7th or the 8th place team that you have to outplay. Although if you're 2 games behind them and you both win 4 games, then there's going to be a play-in. So
Yeah.
okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm still absorbing all this because it seems a little bit complicated.
Yeah. No, it's so you if you are going to fight for a playoff spot in the West, you have to make it to the ninth seed. So even if
Right.
you're the 10th, yeah, even if you're the 10th seed within 4 games, you're out.
No, I understand
Yeah,
that.
you
But
have to
I'm
make it to the
saying
ninth seed.
if you have the 9th place team right now that's already within 2 games, all they have to do is match. Although they'd have to beat them twice, I know that ideally they'd like to catch them outright. I get
Hmm.
that. So, I mean, look, I think they're making a reasonable attempt to make something entertaining and trying to do the best they can to put something that makes some semblance of sense
Hmm.
in the whole competitive. Because I mean, they're going through a difficult time and trying to figure out, hey, how do we put a product on the floor and get to a playoffs without it seeming like it's completely ridiculous? And I don't know that they could do much more than they're doing now.
Yep. No, I enjoy it. I think it's gonna be fun. And then after, of course, I didn't mention this, but I thought it was pretty. It's after they make it to the top 8 seeds, then the regular playoffs continues. They change nothing about the normal playoffs. Everything is
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
straight
I got
from then
you.
on.
Okay.
So all the 7-game series. Awesome. All right, on to the next topic. We got. I don't know if the MLB is really trying to come back for this season. I think this proposal that they came back after the 114 game counter offer is still so far away from what the players were talking about. So they did add, it looks like 28 more games because there was a 48 game restart talked about. Now it's a 76 game return. But let me say why they only want 76 games. It's because they're scared of a second coronavirus outbreak, and they want the season to end no later than October. So they do not want the season to continue outside of October. So they want the regular season to end September 27th, which was the original end date anyway. And then they want the playoffs to go on as planned in October so that the season's over, so they don't have to worry about a potential second outbreak of the corona.
All right, and just so I make sure I understand, right now the players are the one that's in the 100 and some game category, and the owners were at 50 something, and now they've moved up to 70. Okay,
yeah, they were at 48, and now they're up to 76. But when it comes to pay, the 48 and the 114 were supposed to be full prorated amounts. Okay, so they prorate their salary, and they make that for every game that they play. Yep. This one is only 75% of the prorated salary. So if you play all 76 games, you only get paid as if you played 56 games or 57 games. So in reality, they added 28 more games, but only added 9 games of pay.
Right. Well, and again, we had this conversation last week. I know that players are always interested in getting their hand in the revenues that the owners are bringing in. And the owner's revenue is being affected by the lack of stands. Well, first of all, the lack of games, and then the lack of people in the stands. So their revenue is affected. And the players, like I said, when things are going good, hey, I want a percentage of those revenues. When things are going bad, they throw their hands up and say, hey, you're the owner. It's your problem, not mine. Pay me. So
can you blame them?
No, I don't blame the owners either, because the owners are the ones that are taking the risk. The players aren't taking a risk. In baseball,
the financial risk, yeah,
right. Baseball, it's 100%. There's none of this BS where it's like, pay, you have a contract, you get paid that money. It's just that's the way it is.
Yep.
So they get their money no matter what. The owners have to worry about, and look, and again, I'm saying none of these players are going to, or none of these people on either side are going to be in a food line trying to get groceries for their, they're all living fine. But to have the attitude of, hey, when things are going good, you've argued you want a part of it. That's fine. We accept that. But why is the counter to say, hey, when things aren't going good, we'd like you to take a little bit of the hit, just like we do. And then the players are suddenly like, oh, they don't want that to happen. Well, ultimately, if they don't start, well, two things I was going to say. One is if they want the season to end early, then start frickin' in early July. Start July 1st instead of waiting and being so afraid to start, even if there's no people in the stands. But the second thing I wanted to say is it's like if the players are going to come back and say, no, we're not taking a hit on this at all. It is you that's taking the hit. Then from that point forward, every time they talk about the revenue and how they want a part of it, I don't want to hear it, because you're not truly vested in the business like the owners are. And again, none of these owners, even if their team goes bankrupt, they're not going to hurt.
Yeah,
they're billionaires. I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
But you got to take both sides of the coin, or deal with both sides of the coin. When it's good, yep, we'll pay you. When it's bad, hey, give some back. But they don't want to do that, and I understand.
Right. And so it's hard to blame, as you said, it's hard to blame both sides. But what's going to happen if you play 0 games is you make 0 money.
Right.
And on top of that, you lose. Like, it's already a dying sport in a lot of ways. The younger group of people growing up today are not nearly as interested in baseball as they are in the NBA, the NFL. They're just it's lessening in popularity the younger the group are. A lot of the baseball fans are an older group of fans.
Yeah.
You miss an entire season in a year that there's no other sports going on. Like you could be playing immediately. Like the NBA's not coming back till the July 31st. You could be playing July 1st and be the only one in the game. But instead you're going to kick the can down the road, both of you, and you're going to lose even more interest from the younger crowd.
Well, it's the classic say of biting your nose off to spite your face.
Yeah.
That they don't see the opportunity, and they're going to argue. And you might be right. They might argue themselves out of a season, and they're all going to suffer because no one wants to be the one that gives in. But like I said, they should be on.
Which I think that hurts the owners more because, yeah, it sucks that the players lose a year of salary, but they're able to. A baseball season is grueling. 162 games in how many days? I mean, they're playing all the time. They don't have a lot of time for family. This whole year, they're being able to spend time with their family. And as you said, especially the high-end paid players, they're not hurting for money.
No.
And yet they get to spend time with their family, where the owner has a lot more free time in general anyway, because they're not practicing every day, playing every single day, and going through. Like they don't have to be at the game if they don't want to. Like they can miss a game if they decide to. So I think the owners are the ones. They're not going to get paid anything because they're making no revenue right now. Like it's as far as the MLB is concerned. Like yes, they make money in other ways, but they're not making money on this endeavor.
Well, they probably still getting the TV money if it's like the NFL, but I don't know that for sure.
I don't know either.
But ultimately, to your point of it being grueling, they play through the heart of the season. They get one day off a week. So in a month, they're playing 27 games, 26, 27 games a month.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is grueling. But hey, it's out on the field playing frickin' baseball. You know, hey, I'm gonna tell you right now, pay me millions of dollars and I'll play 30 out of 30 days.
Pay my salary today.
Yeah.
That's not millions of dollars. Pay what I make right now, and I'll go play football instead of what I do right now.
Yeah. So
yeah. So it's
they
funny.
just but it like I said, I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that there's nobody at a table between the owners and the players. And again, maybe the players union, they've done this, I don't know, but it seems to me that this should be something where you have two sides sit down and say, look, we have an opportunity to do something here. Let's figure it out. And they figure it out.
Dad, you cannot sit down with each other. There is a coronavirus going around the world.
Oh, yeah, please.
Social distance.
Oh, except when you're protesting, just so you know. And the governors have actually said this, that except when you're protesting. So there's been businesses that have opened up and said, there's actually been churches that have opened up and said, come join us in a protest this weekend. And people have come to church and they're not arguing with them because they label it as a protest. So
I know COVID-19 took a break.
Yeah, no,
okay?
tell
everyone needs
baseball,
a break. Even
tell
COVID-19.
Baseball to start July 1st and say, starting July 1st, our players are going to form a protest every day in the form of a baseball game and have some signs up saying, social justice, whatever, and they won't mess with you. Anyway, that's a fact.
You solved it. You solved it. It's
I know.
It's done.
It's like
we can move on to the next topic. We're done. Yeah. Doesn't matter. It's solved.
Fine.
Dad solved it. John solved it here. Okay. Awesome. No, for real though, we're moving on, and we're gonna move on to some Redskins topics today. One's kind of more of a broader thing, but we're going to kind of focus it in on the Redskins. And then one's a true Redskins topic. But ESPN, because as Dad says, there's nothing going on and everyone's bored, they decided to take team reporters, bring them together online, not in any contact with each other, and redraft the NFL completely from scratch. So they draft 4 rounds. And you can have to draft, what'd you say, a QB, an offensive player, defensive player, and then the 4th round can be any one you want.
Yeah, you have a defense, offensive non-quarterback, and then a quarterback, and then the
Yes.
fourth one is a wild card.
Right. And so the Redskins reporter that was picked to do this was John Keim. We know him well. He's been around a while now. And this is who he drafted. So again, we had the second round pick, and then they did a snake style draft. So you have the second pick in the first round, and then the 31st pick in the second round, second pick in the third round, and 31st pick in the fourth round. So, of course, Pat Mahomes went number one. But this was the first controversial pick. You skip out on the MVP Lamar Jackson, and you take Russell Wilson. Did you agree or disagree with that pick?
No, I thought Russell Wilson, and don't get me wrong, I like him, but I thought that was a interesting pick for number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would have picked. I don't think with all the players out there that I would have picked Russell Wilson as number 2. Whether or not it was Lamar Jackson or a few other ones, that seems weird to me.
Russell Wilson is a beast. I do like me some Russell Wilson, yeah, and I think he's worthy of the number 2 pick. It's just because I think I would pick him number 3 if I did not pick him number 2. It's just you had the sensation of the NFL and Lamar Jackson here, and barring injury, the only thing that's going to stop Lamar for the next 5 years or so is injury.
Well, we've disagreed with that before. I think they're going to figure him out. I know I'm not saying he's not good, he's not dynamic, but I believe the NFL they're going to figure him out, and I don't think he's going.
He is one of the best running backs in the league that can also throw the ball. Nobody hits the outside of the edge like he does. He can run around defensive ends and make it into a 15-yard play. On top of that, he can stand in the pocket and throw a 50, 60-yard bomb to a receiver. I don't know how you figure that out.
Well, I'm going to say this. I understand what you're saying. Let's talk about it at the end of next year or the end of this year coming up and see where Baltimore ends up and how well he does. And if he's doing it even better than ever, then I will say you're right. But I think he's going to come back. It's just my opinion. I'm not,
He's going to have to significantly change his game after 4 or 5 years. And I'm not saying he can't do that, but he's not going to be the Lamar Jackson we know today for more than 5 years. If he stayed healthy.
Why do you think they lost that game? Why do you think Baltimore lost that game? What do you think? Was it Houston or
Tennessee?
Tennessee. So what was the reason why that with that dynamic of a quarterback why do you think they failed and ended up losing that game? I'm just curious asking it.
No, they just couldn't put the ball in the end zone. It was tough.
But why? You have a dynamic quarterback that can get 15 yards on a play. Why couldn't they get it? What was the reason why they couldn't get it in the end zone? That's what I'm asking you.
Tennessee did have a fantastic playoff run, and their defense was playing out of their league in a lot of ways. They played Pat Mahomes decent in that first half too, in that first game, and then Pat Mahomes just blew up after I think it was the last play of the second quarter, and then the third quarter was really bad. But I think they played a really good defensive game, but Lamar Jackson got his. I think he had almost 500 yards of total offense.
Okay, and that's fine, but that's great. Individual stats, that's great, but they didn't win the game because Tennessee figured out what they had to do to stay ahead of them, and whether or not it's like contain him to the point that you can and shut down all these other avenues and lay it all on his shoulders or whatever they did, they stopped him from getting in the end zone. San Francisco is a great defense. Didn't stop Patrick Mahomes and his offense from getting it. They looked pedestrian.
For 3 quarters they did.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
He looked pedestrian for 3 quarters, and then he raised his level and kicked the butts of what arguably is
similar to Lamar Jackson's skill set. When you have a guy in Pat Mahomes that can run backwards 11 yards, throw off his back foot 50 yards past the line of scrimmage, so a 60-yard bomb right to a open Tyreek Hill over the linebacker. You don't stop that. That's the fadeaway. That's the Dirk Nowitzki fadeaway jump shot. A 7-footer shooting a fadeaway. You don't block that shot. And if he makes that shot, There's no stopping it. It's just happening. So similar to Lamar, where anybody can lose any Sunday, anybody can win any Sunday, and Tennessee had a miracle run to the AFC Championship game and ran into the best quarterback in the league and ended up losing. But they did take out one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Lamar and one of the most dynamic players. He's not the best quarterback in the league. He is the quarterback, but if you think of like the quarterback position of what it actually is of inside the pocket, leading the offense, reading the defense, throwing people open. He's not one of the best players there, but you add in his legs, and he's one of the most dynamic people in the NFL. So that was fun. But anyway,
I'm not arguing that. Like I said, I just before, and as far as this topic is concerned, I did want to make a comment about Keim and the statement I think that he made in the round 3 draft pick. I think that was. And I know you're right. I've listened to John Keim for a long time, but I thought that was well, let me just say this. To pick a 32-year-old, is he 32 yet?
Oh, so we're going to the round 3 pick, the Trent Williams pick?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was saying is that, so the round 3 pick, he picks Trent Williams, and that's a shot at the Redskins that they didn't keep him. And I disagree with that. I think that was a cheap shot on his part, and that I'm not picking a 32-year-old offensive tackle to be on my all-time great team when his track record has been, yes, he's played hurt, but he's also had a lot of issues, and I think he basically bailed on a team that tried to, accepted the fact that what was bothering him, he told them, and they came back and said, okay, you didn't like our GM's gone. You didn't like our coach, although I don't think he has a problem with the coach. But you didn't like our medical staff is gone. Now come to the table and talk to us. And he was like, nope, pay me through the nose or I'm not playing for you.
Yep.
So I think that right there is a stupid pick at any point.
I do not like this pick either because of injury. He hasn't played a full season since 2013. I think you could have gotten a lot more value here as a 3rd-round pick as well. And Shaquille Barrett was an interesting pick for me. He did have a 19.5 sack season last year, which was cool. He did have one of the last picks in the 2nd round, so that makes it tough. But I don't know if I would have gone Shaquille Barrett either. But you do want to have a defensive end, and as John Keim mentioned, there was like almost no defensive end left in this draft. But another homer
he even
pick.
says it there. He has several high-level years left, but I worry about his durability. Okay, Captain Obvious. Thanks for telling me that. I had no idea.
And also, the rule was, this is another thing you had to think of, he did have to pick an offensive player.
Yeah, non-quarterback offensive player. I get it. I just, like I said.
And a left tackle is an important position. You may go look at it, and maybe it was he was one of the best. Let's see here. It has the 3rd round.
Well, I want to know who picked up. What's Dallas's left tackle and who?
He had an early 3rd round pick. That's right. Sorry, he had a late 2nd round, early 3rd round pick. Let's see who's down here. He did have to pick an offensive player.
What is Dallas's left tackle's name? I don't know that offhand.
Tyron Smith. Did he go already? Yeah, Tyron Smith already went to Dallas in the 2nd round, so he couldn't pick him.
Okay.
But Quentin Nelson's a beast guard at Indianapolis. He could have got him. Mitchell Schwartz.
I think it was a statement pick. That's all I'm saying. I think it was a statement pick to say the Redskins screwed up, but I don't agree with it.
Lane Johnson
Maybe
was a really good pick.
Did, but anyway.
Yeah, interesting.
But as I said to you before, this is the state we're in, that there is so little going on in the sports world that all the sports writers decided to get together and do this exercise as a gimmick to give some people something to talk about. And I think it worked.
And here we are. Here we are.
Exactly. So it worked.
Yeah.
But when you looked at the rules, that it just, I'm like, okay, somebody, like I said, was really, really bored and thought,
I
hey,
didn't like
guys.
the rule set. When I first looked at this, I didn't realize that there was a rule that you had to draft a QB, you had to draft this, you had to draft that. It's like, why put those rules? Just draft and have some fun. Because, like, no way is Derek Carr being drafted in the third round. No way is Jared Stidham being drafted. No way is who else is in here, quarterback wise.
Well, and can I just,
Go
while
ahead,
you
you can
look for
finish.
that,
Yeah,
I was just
Jameis
going to
Winston.
say, huh?
No, I'm just looking at Jameis Winston, Tyrod Taylor. Like, these people did not want to draft for these quarterbacks, and yet they forced them to.
But this is the other thing that I found completely ridiculous about this concept was it says, what about the other 20 starters for each team? The rest of the roster is made up of average level NFL talent. Our analytics teams identify that as someone such as offensive tackle Donovan Smith, edge rusher Harold Landry III, or cornerback Malcolm Butler. Now, how freaking subjective is that? That's your average level, and let us tell you what average level means. So we're going to pick 3 random middle-of-the-road guys to say the rest of your team is made up of average talent. So,
of these people.
Yeah, so what 4 people are you going to bring in to bring your average talent squad to the point where you think they can make a run?
Here's the pick of the day. Here's the pick of the day.
Justin Tucker.
Kicker made the top 100.
I was going to say he could kick 5 field goals a game. You know, he could be the best asset.
Oh, he is a fantastic kicker. But yeah, he picks a kicker in the top 100. Pick number 99, Justin Tucker. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, and who was that? Wait, I don't know.
Rob Domofsky, Packers reporter.
Yeah, I see that. But
you know what? He was actually on Cooley and Kevin when we played them in the playoffs. They actually had Rob Domofsky come on the show and talk about the stance and what's going on in the Packers going into that playoff game. I remember him.
Yeah, and you know, I got to be honest with you. You know me, I'm a sports talk or sports talk on 980 and to and from work, which is about 2 to 3 hours a day round trip. I would listen to sports talk, so I got a lot of inside information. Well, I've been in my car a handful of times in the last 2.5 months, so I don't listen to it, so I don't get that same insight with. So it seems like an eternity since I've listened to Steve Zabin, for example, because I'm just not in my car. So.
Yep, fair enough.
But anyway.
All right. Well, that was the perfect waste of time that it was supposed to be, and we had fun. And John Keim, you messed up. I don't know if you drafted the best team you could have, but I wouldn't be mad to have those players either, though. So, but that's the kind of the idea is no team's going to be really upset about this team, about the players they have. All right. On to the last subject of today, and it is, so we've gone through the tight ends, we've gone through the running backs. Now we go through the receivers. There's a lot of them. There is a lot of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 on the roster, minus this guy who decided to pull a gun out and shoot it. So,
wait,
12.
Who are you talking about? I'm sorry, who are you talking about?
Cody Latimer. We talked about it.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't catch his name. Sorry.
This guy is not on the team. But 12 guys fighting for what looks like the... So last week I went back and looked at how many of each position makes the team on a typical Ron Rivera team, 53-man roster, and almost every single year except for one, he kept 6 wide receivers.
That's what I was going to say. I was thinking that.
It looks like the number to grab is 6. And if you keep Antonio Gibson, who's the hybrid, at running back, that really opens the door for... There's a 6th receiver up for grabs.
Right.
The 6th spot is pretty much up for grabs.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, when I was looking at this, and this is my opinion, I think number 1 is Terry McLaurin.
Easy.
Yeah, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be the top receiver, the number one on the field most of the time. I really like Steven Sims Jr. I just do.
Yep.
Um,
He's a
Cam
staple.
Cam Sims is interesting to me if he could just like I think
Cam
hold on to the
Sims
ball.
is your third receiver listed. Interesting. Okay. So you like some Cam Sims,
Well,
huh?
well, and I'm not sure if it's the third one, but yeah, this is the ones that are jumping out of me
Mm-hmm.
out of the 13.
I know why,
So
because
there's
you like this number, 6'5".
well, yeah, that's absolutely.
Yep.
It's I like, and that's one of the reasons why Gandy Golden 6'4". I mean, I think
He's
we
obvious going to make the team. He was just drafted this year. So
yeah.
there's three of mine that you have listed. Yep.
All right, so let me see who else that
So right now you have Terry McLaurin, Steven Sims
Steven Sims.
Jr., and AGG and Cam Sims.
Right, so that's four of them.
Yep.
I don't know about Kelvin Harmon was interesting to me, but who's so all right? So apparently we're aligned pretty close. Who do you have that I missed?
Well, you still have two more to name. So who's your
I
two
know.
more?
Well, that's
I'm
what I
gonna
was
force
trying
you.
to
No,
tell
you got to name them. You got to name the next two. I have mine
I
written
got it.
down right here. I'm not changing anything.
All right, I'm gonna say Kelvin Harmon,
Okay, Kelvin Harmon, number 5.
and let's see. This is I just be throwing a dartboard or a dart at a dartboard, but let's say
Yep.
let's go with Trey Quinn.
All right, so Trey Quinn's 6. So I will say right off the gate, we have 5 out of 6 the same.
Hey, so
Yeah.
either we're both really stupid or we both got it figured out.
Yes, correct. The latter. I mean, the first one is definitely what's going on. Okay, so you're absolutely right. McLaurin, number 1, obvious.
Yep.
Steven Sims was not my number 2, but agree, easily make the team. My number 2 was, well, besides, of course, so number 2 would be the Antonio Gandy Golden. We just drafted him. He's going to make the team.
Yeah.
So then the number 3 would be Kelvin Harmon. Kelvin Harmon, we just drafted him two drafts ago. Definitely going to make the team. Now, this is where it got a little iffy for me. Like, okay, who will make the 5th and 6th spot? Now, you listed Quinn. I'm going to just tell you, I agree. I think Quinn will make this team. He's good. He could be a punt returner. He has some versatility there. He's a good slot receiver. He's a good sure-handed guy to have on the team. Good route runner. I think he's a smart guy. I really like him as a punt returner as far as an intelligence factor. I think he's good at knowing when to let the ball bounce, when to fair catch, when to catch the ball and run with it. But the problem with him is he's not very game breaking. So he's not going to be your Devin Hester out there that's going to all of a sudden bust out 6 touchdowns punting the ball. Right. So that's something that's disappointing. So you would like to find a more dynamic guy, but also has the intelligence, which Steven Sims probably could be that guy. I think Steven Sims is a really good return guy. But I think he makes the team.
Before you name your 6th person, because I want to make sure I follow, and just for the record, I wasn't necessarily, I know I started with Terry McLaurin as the overall number 1. I wasn't, beyond that, I wasn't necessarily picking them in the order. Like, I didn't necessarily think of Steve Sims as number 2. I just thought of so.
Well, I just thought it was interesting that Cam Sims was the 3rd guy to come out of your mouth. It's somebody that it's on your mind, somebody that catches your attention, and somebody that you're interested in. So I just thought that was interesting that you listed him. Now, Cam Sims is obviously a big body receiver, but I think I've said this before on the show is I think Emmanuel Hall is going to make a really strong case of why he should be on this team when training camp comes around.
So just to be clear, so Cam Sims is the one we were off on, and you were replacing it with Emmanuel Hall.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. 6'2", big body, 215 as well. He's not as big.
By the
as
way,
Cam Sims.
my stats say 6'3", just so you know.
Your stat says 6'3" for Kelvin Harmon.
Redskins. No. You were talking about Emmanuel Hall.
Hall. Oh shoot,
yeah,
you're right. It is 6'3". I'm sorry, I looked at.
Okay.
I've highlighted the wrong thing with Calvin Harmon. I'm sorry.
All right, just
6'3",
wanted to know
Emmanuel
I
Hall.
was
You did
paying
correct
attention.
me. There you go. 195, excuse me. And
Yeah, still a
because
little
I've also
skinny,
seen some places where they said Calvin Harmon is 6'3", but this one lists him at 6'2". I don't care. We'll take it. But 6'3", 195, another big body receiver. I watched him a lot at Missouri because I was really interested in Drew Lock going into that
Right.
draft that we drafted Dwayne Haskins, and I was really interested in Drew Lock. Chris Cooley loved him some Drew Lock, and so I was definitely interested in him. But so I got to watch some Emmanuel Hall, and this guy's got some hands. I don't know what he ran in the 40, but he's plenty fast enough to play NFL receiver. And this guy is going to make some noise. Kind of like what Steven Sims Jr. did last year. In training camp, he was an undrafted free agent. Nobody really was thinking about him. But once training camp was coming around, 2-3 weeks in, everybody's like, this guy's going to make the team. This guy's making noise. I think this year's noisemaker is Emmanuel Hall. And he becomes our sixth receiver. Cam Sims potentially makes the practice squad again. I think Cam Sims will be on this team at some point this season. Because, of course, there's always going to be an injury bug. There's always going to be something that happens. So I think Cam Sims will be a name that you see this season. He is by number 7. But Emmanuel Hall will be your sixth receiver. So to list them again, you have Terry McLaurin, number 1. You have AGG, number 2. You have Steven Sims, number 3. And Kelvin Harmon, number 4. Those could be interchangeable. I actually have Kelvin Harmon, number 3, and Steven Sims, number 4. And then Quinn will make the team at number 5, and Hall will make the team at number 6.
Okay. So our feeling on Cam Sims is his hands, right? Doesn't he drops too many balls.
He had that preseason game. Well, he had the preseason game last year where he did have 3 really bad drops. But even if you go back and look at the other preseason games where he really shined, I think he has too many body catches. He's not. He's not the natural
leads to drop balls. Yes.
Yeah. He's not the natural hands guy that you want, especially at 6'5". You want a guy that can go up and get it. And
no, I agree. That's why I was just clarifying that because I think that's been his question all along. Is his hands, and your point about body catches is an indication that you don't have great hands because if you're letting it come into your body, because you don't have confidence with your hands, and so no, I think that your picks make sense. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know a whole lot about what the hell is his name now? The last guy you picked, and now
Emmanuel Hall.
Emmanuel Hall. That's interesting. I like his size. I'll be honest, I didn't really look into him very much. I went with I knew what I knew, and I was going down that route.
Yeah.
And then when you pointed that out, it's like, well, he is 6'3". 195 is a little. Well, I guess it's not that skinny in the overall, but 6'3", 195. That seems like he might be a little bit wiry. But we'll see. If he puts a little meat on his bones. Hey, you got to like a receiver especially if you have 2 or 3 receivers.
He can put weight on though. The thing you can't change your height, but you can change your weight. You can hit the gym and you could put some. He puts in 10 more pounds of good weight on him, good muscle weight. Then he could be right there with anybody as far as strength is concerned.
Yeah.
So I'm not.
And I'll
do
some looking into him this week. What's that?
I was just gonna say the weight doesn't bother me too much. When you could add some weight, and especially 195 is not Deshaun Jackson 170 or something. He should be able to withstand a hit, and that shouldn't be.
By the way, can I just do a quick sidebar here? I don't know if you saw. I don't think it was last week, but
whatever you say, this will be the end of the show, so it's all you. Go ahead.
Okay, but I was just mentioning. Did you see the difference in how Dwayne Haskins looks from when he was in college? Apparently he's been working his butt off and working out in the gym, and they showed a before and after pic, and it was like I think it was his senior year in college. He looked a little, certainly he's an athlete.
Baby fat.
I don't want to say
baby fat.
Huh. Yeah.
He looked like he had some baby fat.
Neck and his face. And then they showed him after, like, this year, apparently he's hit the gym, he's working his butt off, and it's like you look at the 2 pictures and it looks like, it almost looks like 2 different guys. So that'll be interesting to see how that translates on the field. But that's all I had. I just wanted to throw that out there because I thought I know people were questioning his work ethic early on, and I think that he, as part of what the thing that he wrote, we talked about where he wanted to show people that, look, I'm working, and hopefully he's actually doing what it appears he's doing. Were you trying to find the before and after? Because it was.
Yeah, I was trying to find it real quick to show the people, but
Yeah, it was. I'm telling you, it was a stark, and and they can do anything in lighting and whatever. But
yeah, I was just trying to find it real quick, but I'm struggling to find it.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. I think the best way to describe it is like he got rid of his baby fat.
Yeah.
That, like I said, around his neck and just his face, it looked like. Like I said, if you can find it, it's.
Yeah, interesting. That I may edit it in later. That's fine.
All right. Well, that's
cool.
all I had. But yeah, I can't wait till this freaking NFL season gets started because I'm tired of.
Aren't we all? All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for episode number 6 and sticking around to the end. Please comment down below anything that you think. If we missed anything, if you disagreed with what we said, if you liked what we said, if you have any questions about what we said or anything like that, please go ahead, comment down below, and we could potentially start reading those on air the next time. And then like the video, subscribe to the channel, and enjoy the episodes to come. We'll be back next week with episode 7, and that'll be all. See ya.
All right. See ya.